Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Doris Ballard. This program is available on Concord TV's Channel 22, on demand at yourconcordtv.org, on our YouTube channels, as well as on iTunes as a free podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Well, they're all special guests, but you're especially special. Chief Dan Andrus, the fire chief from the Concord Fire Department. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Doris. It's lovely to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. It's been a while since I've gotten connected with you to find out what's happening in our amazing fire department in Concord.
It has been a while. There are a lot of really neat things happening for the department and for the city of Concord.
Well, you gave me some notes, and I'm very excited to just get to talking about them. So let's talk first about some very things that people might want to know. Unless they've been counting where all the fire departments, where all the stations are, where are they located and how many?
We have 4 stations total, and they are strategically located around Concord to provide about a 5-minute response time on the average. And we just ran some statistics, and 67% of the time we're there in 5 minutes or under, which is a very good benchmark for a city of 64 square miles. We have the central station on North State Street, right across the Rite Aid. And we also have our Broadway station that covers the south end on Broadway Street, station number 4. We have one on the Heights on Loudon Road, station 7, and we have one in Pennacook up on Village Street. So we have kind of a ring
quite a big city
city
to cover for 4
It is a big city. When we first moved here, my wife kept saying, how many stations cover the city? She said, I would think there'd be 6 or 7. But no, we do it with 4, and we cover things mostly pretty well.
Well, I'd say so. We've been a very busy time for you, unfortunately. We will get into the recent fires that we've had, and there was, of course, one tragedy. And but, I mean, how many firefighters are there?
We have a total of 101 employees, and 84 of those are assigned to our suppression and EMS division, 21 per shift, over 4 shifts. And we do have 9 people in dispatch. We have a fire alarm superintendent. We have people in administration doing the financial accounting and other work. We have fire prevention staff. So total 101, just over 100.
Now, you haven't been in the Concord area for your entire life. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. My father was a firefighter from 1950 until 1980. And he served most of his time in fire prevention, 19 years, was the city's fire marshal, and retired in 1980 and passed away about 12 years ago. But I literally grew up thinking that everybody's father worked 24-hour shifts, were away from home for extended periods of time. And so that's where I had my start, went to school there, graduated from high school, went to the University of Utah, and served in Salt Lake City Fire for 29 years at all the ranks from firefighter and firefighter, paramedic, and when I left I was deputy fire chief for administration. So I had a wonderful career here and then got a fresh start in 2008 coming to Concord. New city, new department.
Was it the job that brought you here?
Absolutely,
Right.
yes.
How different is it from where you were in Utah for how busy the fire department is?
Proportionally, it's very much the same. It's a busy urban department. And it feels like just a slightly smaller scale version of Salt Lake City. But in terms of the company call volumes, the types of calls, it's much more similar than it is different. It was really, it just felt like I had moved within 10 days from the last day I worked in Salt Lake City to my first day in Concord. It felt like it was just another day at the office in Salt Lake in many ways. We have the same kinds of budget issues and contract administration and service provision issues, and it was much more alike than different.
So, but we have the State House here, and of course our population just becomes larger during the work week. Does that have an impact at all on the services that you have to provide in Concord?
It absolutely does. It has impacts in a couple of ways. One is that our population goes up from our residential population of 43,000 to, we think, around 200,000.
Wow.
And like Salt Lake City, Concord is, of course, the capital of the state, which means that a lot of our property is tax exempt. So the city has to find ways to balance, because we have a lot of additional demand for services, but we don't have all of the property tax base.
Right.
And you know from your years in city council, that can be a challenging equation when you have upward pressure on services and downward pressure on revenue. So
it's a lot. People don't realize that when they get their tax bill that you still have to provide the services, but you don't get all the tax base from everyone that has property
Yes.
in the city.
So that's a familiar dynamic for me, because Salt Lake
Right.
City have the same
So it's
thing.
all parallel. It was like, no wonder you were hired. I mean, you're a perfect fit for Concord, New Hampshire.
I hope so. I've really
Well,
enjoyed it.
I think-
Certainly,
I think you are.
I've had the best of my 37 years in the service. The
Wow.
last 8 have been, it's
Right.
been
So you've seen
such
a
a
lot.
personal pleasure.
You've seen a lot, I'm sure, right? You could write a book.
Yes, if I had the time to do that, I would.
All right, so what does it take to become a firefighter?
It takes some personal qualities of integrity, courage, and dedication to follow through this job. People are surprised at how much academic preparation it takes. We require people to be both firefighter 1 and 2 certified, level 2 certified, and to be emergency medical technicians before they can apply. We will take lateral transfers from other departments, but lacking that, you have to be on the state list, which means you have to pass both those courses, which are rigorous. They're like boot camp and boot camp plus. It's like being in the military for a couple of years. Most of our candidates come to us with at least an associate's degree in fire science or a related field, or in paramedicine, or one of the related fields. Many have come with bachelor's degrees. Many more are coming, interestingly, from other career fields, and they have decided that as absolutely intriguing as IT or some other business was, they're finding that longing to serve their fellow human beings. And we have had some late career people come in, and they contribute a lot to our department, to the community.
That's interesting. Right.
So they have to do that. At the last time that we tested, we had 139 applicants.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
hired, I think from that list, 2 people. So be assured, if you're in Concord, that you are getting the cream of the crop, the very, very best people that you can get. That not only have the certifications, but really can compete. And we have them go through an interview process. We have them go through a swim test, because we have so many bodies of water that being able to swim and navigate in water is an important quality.
You don't think about that when you think of firefighters. You think about fires. You just reminded me that they have other responsibilities.
Oh, yes. As our union president, firefighters union president, Jim Duckworth says, we are the Swiss Army knife of the community.
I love that.
We are the tools that are able to address anything from structure fire to wildland fires and brush fires to auto accidents, extrications, medical emergencies ranging from minor cuts and bruises to heart attacks and complex medical problems. We have young children in the community who are very fragile, medically fragile, who we are charged with taking care of when they have a medical emergency. So
You're
we run a
really
whole-
part of our greater village.
we are part. We are
like the
serving
police
every.
department.
As diverse as this community is, medically and in every other way, we have to be prepared to meet the needs of those populations.
Well, if you're just tuning in, this is Community Conversations, a production of Concord Community TV, or Concord TV. And my guest today is Chief Dan Andrus. He is the fire chief of the Concord Fire Department, and we're learning what's new, what's been happening. And unfortunately, what's new is that your firefighters have had some challenges in the past, this past year. Some good things, but also some unfortunate incidents of fires.
Certainly the most unfortunate was a fire in December on Rumford Street that took the life of a resident who was well known to many of us from his presence at city council meetings and in the community. And in fact, at my home, I have a photograph that he'd taken and given to me of our new tower ladder truck. He was someone who was very well known, and we lost him in a fire at the house where he lived. And
Oh my.
that was our first fire death in 10 years, and I guess on one hand we can say we have an excellent fire record, but truly when it affects someone you know, it doesn't matter if you know or not, but having somebody you know gives an added sharpness to the pain you feel when somebody dies in a
Sure.
fire. That was a tough one.
Firefighters, like policemen, I get the sense, especially after seeing the 9/11 tragedy, is that you're a band of brothers. So you're family.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time together. I mean, especially the younger firefighters, it's 24-hour shifts. They actually sleep and eat together. So it's like a family.
It is like a family, and we're hoping that that becomes sisters too. We've had some.
I was going to
Concord's
say,
had
yes.
some good. Concord had 2 women when I came here. Both have retired, and we are looking at ways to bring more women into the fire service, which has just been a remarkable way of transforming our services, and especially for some of the services we provide to have women involved just makes us better. So we're looking at avenues. We'll talk more about that too later on.
Good. All right, let's talk about your record. The call volume topped 8,000 in 2015. That's a record, right?
That is a record.
That's a lot of calls.
It was only the year before I came, or 2 years before, that we crossed 7,000. But those were the years of the floods in 2006 and 2007. So we had dozens and even hundreds of calls related to flooding, and that pushed our call volume over 7,000. And we were saying, wow. Then for a couple of years, it dropped back down to that high 6,000 level. And we started seeing it push up. Last year, we thought about halfway through, we are going to top 8,000. We are already significantly ahead, like 4% ahead of where we were last year. So we were going to top 8,000, and we broke it with 8,091 calls last year, which is very, very busy.
Now, why do you feel it's going up? I think I know what a lot of the answer is.
Yes, I have bad news to share with you. Not only are you and I getting older, not visibly
baby boomers
in any way, yes, we baby boomers, but there's a large segment of the population that's pushing into their 60s and 70s and having the kinds of medical challenges that beset people. And I did some statistics and was surprised to find that between 2010 and 2015, we had 550 more people over the age of 60. That's because probably our population has a little bulge up there at the upper end of people over the age of 60. And apparently life can become more complicated with heart, respiratory, other disease. And especially we're seeing with falls. That's our number one category for dispatch. Is we get about 2 fall calls a day. And about 80% of those patients are over the age of 60.
My.
Yeah.
Now, especially in the winter, I would think we haven't had a bad winter this year, but typically in the winter, do you have more calls for falls?
Interestingly, it remains really steady right across the way. And I'm not seeing a seasonal bump. I ran the calls by month, and it seems to stay just very, very steady. People are falling at home, outside, and while we still do get some falls in the ice, they're not as prevalent as you might think. In fact, the number suggests that people will stay indoors or be more cautious when it's really icy out, that they'll make the appropriate risk decision, say, no, I'm not going out there today.
Right. Now, how many people take those 8,091 calls in 1 year? How many? That's a lot of volume.
It is a lot of volume. The ambulance with which you are most familiar in the South End pushed over 3,000 calls last year, almost 10 a day.
So there's one person taking the calls at different shifts, or we have more?
Yes,
than
we have 4 shifts. We have 21 people in each shift, and we also have 2 dispatchers assigned to each shift. So that team of 23 will take calls from our 4 stations, and depending on what the call is, depends on the assignment you get. So if you get a structure fire, we all come. That's like the big invitation. If you say that your house is on fire, pretty much everybody comes to your house, because that's the most critical life risk that we have in the city. So we're going to send everybody to make sure that you're okay. For other calls, like the one that just came in before I left, it was a low priority medical call, not low priority for us, but low priority in terms of the seriousness of the call, and we sent an ambulance with 2 people to that call. Now
you have partnerships that you have with other organizations. Talk about those. You have VNA, Riverbend, and Concord Hospital for better patient care. That's another area that I don't think the public realizes, where the fire department has some sort of a connection.
Yes, we work very closely with the VNA. Many of their patients are our patients. And we've had a formal program in place for 12 years to do referrals when people fall to the VNA, who can do follow-up care, especially for an older adult who may need some assistance with managing their medications, who may need a home fall assessment, who may need some physical therapy to improve their gait and their strength so that they're not going to be as likely to fall. And the VNA does wonderful things through their Matter of Balance program and other initiatives. Riverbend Community Mental Health, we have over 300 calls a year for people whose primary manifestation is due to mental or behavioral emergencies. And
Why would they call the fire department, I'm sorry, and not the police department, or they start with the police and?
we get them usually. It may
Really?
be a medication issue. It may be
Oh, because of the
a
EMS
behavioral issue. They
services,
may
right.
be having an acute anxiety attack. They may be having a panic attack. They're manifesting in some way that makes them medically emergent. And with Riverbend, it's kind of exciting because they are working with some new resources that will bring more 24-hour crisis care to our community. So
That's
typically,
wonderful.
we are kind of a one-track service. You call, we pick you up, we take you to a hospital, usually Concord Hospital. But Riverbend is trying to expand to the point where for a behavioral or psychiatric emergency, they can become a primary destination. And a mental health care provider can be there and can be a more appropriate response to that patient and their needs. You're not seeing an emergency room physician who's going to refer you to that care, that you're going to get the right care at the right time the first time.
And you know how to refer people to, for instance, like as you said, to the VNA, to the proper, not just abandon them, but you can give them
Yes.
some help as to where to go now.
Yeah, we work hand in glove. We
Yeah.
formally meet several times a year. And we're talking about something called mobile integrated healthcare because we're a huge player in the healthcare needs of the community. We are the safety net for the community.
I want to talk about the great work that your union locals are doing for the community. Let's talk about that.
Let me tell you, those the folks here are just so committed to their community on and off the job, and that has never been more apparent in the last couple of years. Most Concord residents will know that we've gone out and have gone out since 1952 to collect for Jerry's Kids, the Fill the Boot Drive. And under the leadership of a couple of visionary presidents and executive boards, the Officers Union, the Firefighters Union, the last 2 years have really expanded community benefit and support work. For 2 years, they've done Operation Warm, and it touches my heart deeply to know how much your firefighters care for this community. You wouldn't believe how many kids go without appropriate clothing in these bitter winters. And over the last 2 years, they have gone out and raised money to buy brand new coats. These are not hand-me-downs. These are not things we've collected from rummage sales. These are brand new union-made coats, made, I think, in North Carolina. Bright, colorful, something a child would be proud to wear.
That's great.
And those are being distributed through, mainly through the schools who identify these children to us,
So they identify the children that need them, and they get the right size, and that's
hundreds
wonderful.
of
That's
those.
wonderful.
Yeah,
So,
it's really, the
so
level
feel
of need
the-
is high and surprising to me.
and they help, of course, Boys and Girls Club auction. We're very involved, Concord TV, with
Oh,
that
you are
auction
very
every year.
involved, yes.
And I love to see the firefighters come in and answering the phones, so usually toward the end of the evening.
And we have some very good ones who do the kind of upfront talking work. I did that 1 year and I went, I'm not nearly as good as people like Rick Whitney and some of the other folks who've been up there, but we have supported the Boys and Girls Clubs, and I'm so proud of what the IAFF locals have done. It's part of the International Association of Firefighters' mission to really support the community, especially children. That's where our hearts and our money and our efforts go, is supporting the children of the community.
And there is such a need.
Yes.
People, probably more now than some children go without lunch, if they didn't go to school, they probably wouldn't eat as they should. So having the firefighters be involved, and I'm sure that the police department does work with the kids, that, as again, I'm going to say it again, it takes a village. We're all in this together, am I
Absolutely.
right? Chief Dan Andrus?
We are. Can I mention one more thing about
Yes.
that too? One new thing that they introduced last year was we have a huge number nationally. Kids who are leaving home going to college are very much at risk for losing their life through auto crashes. I mean, you're out, you're on your own, you're off in a different city. My daughter was there 3 years ago. She was new. And we did, or the locals did a crash demonstration where they brought in a couple of wrecked cars, and they simulate what happens. The extrication, the loss of life, the really serious injuries that can occur. And we had a demonstration, kind of a live demonstration of this is how it works. These are the engine companies coming in, this is extrication.
That happened at the high school once.
That happened
We
at,
were there too.
Oh, okay, yeah. And NHGI did it this time because that's
okay.
where
All right.
that's where the real risk group is. And I was proud, and it was sobering, not to be humorous anyway, but very, very sobering
I'll bet.
to watch the kids going, wow, this could be me.
Especially
This is
now with all the
serious
texting and driving and distracted driving, it's frightening.
Yeah, it really is.
Now, the fire department sends a truck to all accidents, do they?
Yes, in almost every case, you'll be seeing a fire engine respond with the ambulance.
And why is that? I know why, but I think maybe the public may not realize it.
Sure.
Because I asked that question years ago.
The number one reason is patient care and safety. That when you get a team of 5, we're much more able to do all of the things from collecting medications, talking to bystanders, talking to family members, making sure that if there's any suspicion that there could be criminal activity, that we have people watching the scene, and as well transporting patients. And most of us or many of us are pretty big people, so transporting people across this New Hampshire landscape in a stretcher can be pretty hazardous duty sometimes. So we want to make sure we have enough people on hand to do the lifting, carrying, maneuvering, whether to get you out of your house or across a frozen driveway or something. Patient care and safety, and also for responder safety. It doesn't take much to put a responder out of work or out of a career with a back injury. So we want to have enough people who do the lifting and really the team that can be there for that. And we encourage, if we do send an ambulance alone, we encourage our responders, if they find something that they need help with, they are to call the engine and have them back them up.
If you're just tuning in, it is Community Conversations, and my guest today is Chief Dan Andrus from the Concord Fire Department, and we're finding out all the wonderful things that our firefighters do beyond responding to fires. You do so much more. Now, youth, you mentioned children a lot. Now, you work with youth through the Explorer and high school programs.
Yes.
How much do you do with youth in the community?
We do a lot with youth.
Nice.
We've had an Explorer program in place. There was one several years ago. Some of our incumbent firefighters, our longtime incumbent firefighters, started as Explorers when they were in high school, a good number of years ago. And in 2010, we resurrected that concept and started a new Explorer post, Post 555. And we have had almost 6 years of having young people ages 15 to 20 who are interested in emergency services careers come through. Again, our union president, Jim Duckworth, a remarkable man who has a graduate degree in social work and who was involved in youth corrections before his fire service career, led that effort and has done a tremendous job. He's handed that off now to another firefighter named Roman Bastic. And I think you've met Roman maybe back a while ago.
Yes, you're
Somebody who
right.
came from Poland
Yes.
and is really fabulous. And then it was, we are now in our 3rd year of our high school program with Concord High School through the Career Regional Technical Center. And thanks to their assistant principal, they have done a remarkable partnership with us to bring in kids from all throughout the catchment area for the high school to do a Firefighter 1 program.
Oh.
And they spend a semester with us, and if they are successful in all their examinations, they get a credential at the end of that.
Great. What do you give for advice to people to prevent fires in their homes?
Our advice is simple. Have working smoke alarms, and I'm putting an underline under working to say make sure that the batteries are updated and that they're tested and that they're ready to go, so they're not sitting there with a dead battery. And have an escape plan, know what to do. Have a smoke alarm that can go off. If it does go off, know what to do.
Right.
Get down on your hands and knees, know your exits. Plan for an escape where your primary exit may be blocked and you wind up going out a window or down an alternate route, but working smoke alarms, fire escape plans. Other than that, I'm going to make a pitch.
right.
Without making a confession, I'm going to make a pitch for cooking fires, which have become very prominent, which have caused some pretty serious injuries just in the past year. We'd had like 19 cooking fires
Gosh.
a year ago. And the fire marshal came to me and he said, this is an epidemic. And it seems to be that people are putting stuff on the stove, and in our busy, harried, frazzled lives, you're walking away,
And forgetting that the
forgetting
stove is
that
on.
you've got something on the stove that's now on fire.
Oh.
And we've had a couple of people come back and had some pretty serious burns to their arms trying to put it out. And watch yourself with cooking. I think that you have a story about a candle, but we may not say on the air.
Well, we had a candle that we thought was out, and in the middle of the night, and we had it was still a little burning, but we had no idea, and was sitting on top of a phonograph, an old my husband's wonderful old phonograph, and in the middle of the night we woke up because of the smoke alarm, 2nd floor. If it hadn't been for that smoke alarm, by the time we would have noticed it, it would have been too late.
Yeah.
And our dog even slept through it, so with the smoke alarm. So I have to say that if you don't have a working smoke alarm in your home, and then there was the issue of knowing what to do when the fire was starting to lick up the walls in the room downstairs. So I was running out of the house while my husband was trying to put it out. Fortunately, he got it out, but I was still waiting outside. I mean, that's a funny story, but which could have been very tragic.
It could have been tragic. I've been to a fatal candle fire. That took the
So smoke alarms, candles. We never have another candle in our home anymore.
candles,
Unless
for
we
some
watch
reason,
it, unless we're there with it. You know?
Candles have become very big as a fire cause and as a fatal fire cause. So my counsel is to be, if you have a candle, make sure it's at a really solid base.
Right.
And make sure
Right.
that if it's lit, you're in the room.
Right.
And I'm going to say, like you said, if you extinguish it, I wouldn't mind if you turned it upside down in a glass of water.
And that could have prevented this. We thought it was out, but it wasn't. It was
Yes.
still smoldering. So
That's not the first time I've heard somebody say
my
that. And
gosh.
I
I know.
applaud you for your courage in sharing that story, because a lot of us will find ourselves nodding and saying, yeah, it could have happened to me, or it did happen to me too.
Yeah, the smoke alarm definitely saved our lives. So if people do not have a working smoking alarm, and again, as you said, working, batteries, are they operating, whatever, make sure that's all, you're all set in your home, especially if you have children. And we didn't even talk about carbon monoxide. That's a whole other situation, correct?
Yes, have those
that's a whole
in all your sleeping areas.
I'm going to encourage the people who are watching or listening to go to concordnh.gov and click on the fire department, because there are resources there for kids, citizens, and parents. I was amazed at how much you had that people could go find out more about what's happening in the Concord Fire Department. And I'm going to give you one more chance to say one thing that we might have forgotten before we sign off here today on Community Conversations. Chief Dan Andrus.
Just know that you have the most competent, committed group of professionals serving your city who are there, and we have a very high number. Most cities, the city where I came from had a group of people who were trained in technical rescue. And you would be surprised at how many credentials your firefighters hold, whether they are paramedics, and everybody's at least an EMT, and several dozen are paramedics, and they have certifications in water rescue, high-angle rescue, ice rescue, and you have an extraordinarily competent and committed group of people serving you.
And we have an extraordinary competent chief that's
Who?
leading the group,
Oh.
and that would be you.
Listen,
Thank you.
It's all about what I do for them. And we
right,
won't
well-
talk about my ability to tie knots, but we could have a demonstration sometime, and you'll have people tuning in all over to watch you tie knots.
Well, we're very lucky to have you and your wonderful firefighters and fire department in our terrific city of Concord, New Hampshire. So thank you.
I'm very lucky to be here and grateful too.
Thank you, Chief Dan Andrus, for being on the program. Anytime you want to come on, please do.
I'd love it. Let's do it again sometime.
All right.
We'll keep talking.
Terrific. All right, you've been listening to Community Conversations. I'm Doris Ballard, your host. Have a great day.